Well, thanks for joining us today, everyone. We are in part two of our ranking of home buying tools. So these are things that can save you money, can in some cases even put you into the home buying market, reduce costs. So we've gone through the first five. We, Chase and I, on the lending side, have kind of gone through the first five. If you want to see kind of a brief description and a ranking on those, feel free to check out part one. But part two, obviously, we're going to finish up the last five here. Again, just going to talk through them and then give an assessment of kind of how we feel that it'll fit in the process of you buying a home, such that as you begin your search and you're talking with your lender and your realtor, you'll know kind of which topics rise to the top. And you can spend the most time chatting about. So with that, I'll bring Chase in. How you doing today, Chase?
Doing good, Jerod. Good to see you,
Would you,
my friend.
yeah, good to see you. What'd you think of our kind of our first episode? This kind of ranking thing, it kind of puts a different perspective on things, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I like it. It's harder than I thought it would be. Yeah, definitely gonna have to go back when we've been through all of them, re-rank them, and see where I'm at.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting because it's tough to rank because we kind of knew it going in, but even during the episode, it's sometimes so situational based upon the buyer that we're working with
Right.
and where the market's at that it's hard to stick a number on it because that number can fluctuate over time with different buyers. So.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
But we did try to give, in general, most buyers are going to benefit the most, and give it a ranking, certainly top three or top five type of thing. So all right, well,
Right.
with that, let's do a couple small housekeeping items here and roll into the meat of the conversation. For those of you that I haven't met yet, my name is Jerod Lee. I'm the associate broker and team lead here at My Home Connection, also known as MHC Realty. Our sponsor for today is the perfect home buying process. We've now spent over 2 decades developing this process to make your home buying process more efficient, less costly. We're bringing a whole lot of tools, such as different podcast series with a lot of information and education, to reports for those that want to look at the numbers, all the way to a promotion we have on the lending side. We're going to at closing provide up to $500 on your appraisal, and then up to $500 on your inspection. So kind of minimizing those costs and instilling a sense of confidence in what you're doing buying your home. So with that, we'll bring Chase back on. And I think in just to summarize, kind of in part one, we talked about the seller concession tool, as I think kind of rose to the top because of the time where we're in the market. And I'll kind of use that
Hmm.
as a benchmark for these other ones, as if it's going to kind of stay at the top, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. I would say that for those ones that are, I think we have to look at the world in a clean slate and just assume that it's going to be around and then gauge its importance, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Very good. All right. Well, let's chat. So we wrapped up last episode, part one, on price reduction. Let's get into the 50-year mortgage, and obviously this is a theoretical, maybe. Uh, but I think it's important to give a little context and backstory, because I think the knee jerk could potentially be boo, no bueno. Um, but right, we didn't end up with 30-year mortgages right out of the gates. We but now they're the common thing. So I think there's a time and a place for everything. What's your thoughts on even leaning in this direction? Kind of your gut feel at this point, and obviously because the details haven't fully unfolded yet.
Um, so I'm all for having I truly believe that home ownership is the number one wealth building tool that we have as Americans, right? If you look at the numbers between the nationally the nationally ranked or nationally calculated wealth that renters build versus homeowners build, it's
Mhm.
staggering.
Staggering. Yep.
And so it's super important, and I'm for any tool that I have to help get people started.
Mm-hmm.
With this tool, if it becomes one, I will have a lot of caveats around it, right?
Right.
Because 50-year mortgage, you're adding a bunch of interest, you're adding, it doesn't reduce your payment as much as you'd like, 200 to 300 a month. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I think there will be situations where it will definitely be beneficial,
Yeah.
but it's not something that I think that I will go right to, because you're going to be much slower to build equity as well, right? And to build that wealth.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the fact that we're calling these tools because if you know, if you're going to drive a nail, the first thing you reach for is a hammer, you know,
Hmm.
but if you don't have a hammer or can't afford a hammer and you got a pipe wrench, I mean, yeah, you could drive that nail in. But so I'm of the same opinion.
Yeah.
As many, you know, the more tools we have to help prospective homeowners, the better. But we have to look at the trade-offs, what the benefit is, what the benefit and what the con is.
I, I mean, if you look at it holistically, my biggest worry is it takes our eye off the ball, right? Because our biggest problem in most markets around the nation is affordability,
Yeah.
and this does not solve the affordability problem,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So I don't want, like, to just slap a band-aid on something and not address what needs to be addressed.
Yeah. I kind of like so again a very specific tool, and I think you touched on it, but I want to go back around to it. Is if you're a prospective home buyer and you can't buy, you just can't. You've figured out all kinds of options, and you just are not able to purchase. And this introduces an ability to do that by a couple $100 on your mortgage payment that puts into alignment your DTI. Um, you know, getting into home ownership's 5 years early
Yeah.
and then knowing how to offset this 50-year mortgage, meaning let's refinance it sooner than later into kind of a more traditional 30 while you know, after you've accumulated some equity in the home. You know, I think there's a good fit, but you can't go off using the wrong tool and expecting the same outcome, right? By the time that nail's in that wood, using a pipe wrench, it's going to look way different than if you'd used a hammer.
Right.
I don't know if that's a good analogy, but that's what
Yeah.
visual I get.
Yeah, no, I like it, and I could see me going into using that with a long term plan of, okay, what do we do in 3 to 5 years? Like,
Mhm.
we just don't want to set it and forget it with that, because if you're 30, right, and you don't realize any of that equity till 80, yeah. So and it's not like people are staying that long or whatever, but I think as affordability becomes a problem, we've already seen the amount of time that people stay in a home go from like 5 to 7 years to, I think it's at 13, 14 years now,
Yeah, right.
right? And so, as affordability continues to be an issue, people are going to stay in those homes longer because you just can't move around as much. I listened to something, it was about a week ago, that really struck with me, or that stuck with me, is you can still buy a house in this country. You
Mhm.
can still afford it at most wage levels, right?
Mhm.
You just may not be able to afford it where you're at currently,
Right,
right?
right,
With
right.
what you do, can you move it to a state that's more affordable? Can you, and I'm saying that because I have a son that's going to graduate next year, right? And what does this world look like for him? And so, um, you might have to be a little more open with the opportunities that are provided you.
Yeah, yeah. Love it. So let's go into this real recent idea, and I don't know if this is necessarily a home buying tool, but I think it's a tool that could help you be more likely to buy sooner than later. Is kind of how I see it. And this is this idea of a 1 year cap on a 10% a 10% cap on our credit cards. You know, this idea of how do we make things more affordable? How do we reduce our costs? And what popped into my mind is, um, you know, if you've got a 18, 20, 22%, you know, card today, anything lowered of significance in the next 6, 12 months or what have you, hopefully those are monies that you're making good use of, right? as you mentioned, wealth generation on the real estate side is a perfectly logical place to plan to put it. So how much can you save in that time? Maybe not this tool by itself, but a small tool to help people. Uh, I would imagine it's going to rank fairly low, but I think we need to put it in as a tool nonetheless.
Okay. So this is a tough one for me because we're in a really weird time right now in this country. So home equity is at an all-time high. The amount of equity that people have in their homes is at an all-time high in this nation.
I.e., wealth, real estate
Well,
wealth.
yep. Also, what is at an all-time high is credit card debt,
Crazy.
right? So, um, and where I see our biggest problem is affordability, right? Like you're month to month, if you're not getting ahead, if you're paying, 18 to 25%, and you're paying the minimums and you're not getting ahead, like that's not going to help you afford anything, right? It just makes it worse. So as far as that's the like I'm big on. I think this would be amazing for the financial health of our country,
Mm-hmm.
right? And and
Mm-hmm.
and for our neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, don't want to get on a soapbox for too long, but like this is just a statistic of us being broken.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because we don't educate. Like like number one thing in a high school should be budgeting classes and you know what I mean, basic financial intelligence. Like
Mm-hmm.
like we have to break this cycle, and so that's it. That's all I'm gonna say. But I actually think I would probably towards buying a home. It might not be as high, but I'd probably rank this high because I think changing the overall financial wealth of our
Yeah,
nation
love it.
is going to change the home buying experience.
Yeah, yeah. We could give you a little bit more of a soapbox if you'd like for a little longer.
This
Just
is a
kidding.
pet peeve of mine, man. Like if you just like I see people's credit scores all day long. I
Yeah.
see the amount of debt they're carrying. I see that
Oh,
they're paying high rent and you know what I mean, but their credit cards aren't allowing them to save money or what, like just the scenarios, and it's just a lack of education.
yeah.
It literally is just a lack of education in this country, and we're not even doing it from the most, from the high school level. It should be one of the first and most important things that we teach.
Yeah, and one last thing on this topic: if you're not only doing something with the money that you're saving in that period, if this comes to fruition, but also be aggressive in paying it down, so
Yep.
that you got more buying power on your house, or you got better DTI for a better interest rate loan, or whatever it looks like. Like just it's a very powerful tool if you use it and use it in the right way. And even if it's not for buying a home, just get this mindset that credit cards need to go away.
Every dollar that you're saving on interest should go back into paying down the principal,
Yeah.
right? Like if you like if same with home ownership, right? If you're saving it, right? If you get a low rate or you do a 2-1 buy down or whatever, that money should be invested or saved or go toward the principal. Like
Yeah.
it's simple. Like whatever we can do to reduce our monthly or to increase our long-term wealth. That's what we
Yeah.
need to focus
Yeah, yeah, agreed. Okay, so we've been ranking these a little bit harder as we get through the page, and I know we covered price reduction last time. I think that one's a pretty straightforward, so we don't have to revisit kind of what that means, right? You're just paying less for the home. Um, so I think I would rate it kind of in the middle because I think depending on where you're at, kind of that 5-6 range, uh, depending on how aggressive you are in reducing the price and how powerful the other tools we talked about are. If the other
on.
tools
Yeah.
are in play because of seller concessions, it drops down that list more. But I think in general, over time, that's kind of that middle of the road 4, 5, 6 range. Would you? That's my assessment.
I have to because of the topic, right? We're ranking as like how much does this help if you're trying to buy a house today? Like it would be my number one if we're talking about things that I think that could benefit people. But yeah, I think you're probably right. Just because I don't know, man, affordability, it's tough. I could see me being a little bit higher than 5 just because affordability is such an issue, and
Yeah.
our credit card debt being out of control, being probably the biggest piece of that affordability, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not, when we talk affordability, it just isn't the price of the home. Yep, those have gone up too.
Right.
But if we're spending beyond our means and constantly underwater, that is just terrible.
Yeah. Okay, 50 year, I think both of you, and I mean, I don't even know if this is worth ranking because it's not in play yet, but I think even when it comes in play, it's going to be pretty niche. So, one or two. And actually, I would rank it really high for the person that can't buy, that needs to get into home ownership and is diligent about shifting off of that sooner than later. Like, right? There's
That's
no,
the tough part with a lot of these, right? Like it
right,
situationally, it could be the number one option depending
right.
on, so we have all these tools. So I'm looking at it as how often I would use it or how often it would benefit the buyer,
Ah, there you go.
right? So that's kind of what I'm shifting my mindset to try
Yeah,
and make this a little bit easier.
yeah, yeah. Agreed. Credit card interest rate, man, I think it's super high rank if we just as a culture and our like you said, our financial literacy grows and we become uh, better about our budgets. Man, if this can kickstart that, I put it really high.
Agreed.
But if
Yeah.
you're just kind of using it for the next year and trying to be aggressive in it, kind of middle of the road, reduce my credit card debt as best I can with setting some money aside.
Yeah, maybe we should have put on in this list of 10 like just financial education, because I think that's the issue, right? Like like
Mm.
I remember my wife and I driving around during COVID. Um, because our dates got pretty sparse, and
Uh-huh.
I had to close a company, and like it was tough, right? It
Yeah.
was tough. And I remember us driving around and looking around, and all the restaurant parking lots are full.
Mm.
Like we're in massive recession, biggest thing that we've seen in our generation,
Yeah.
and people don't stop spending. So that's the worry with this, right? You reduce
Yeah.
that credit card entry. What are we going to do? Because if we don't have the education of what we should do,
Yeah.
are we still going to spend beyond our means?
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like we might have a part three coming.
Ah,
Anyway, well, let's roll on to this idea of a minimum credit score removal. So, as I understand it, this is in discussion. This is a thought, but it's rolling in that direction pretty quickly. And well, actually, why don't I let you describe what it is they're talking about, and then where we're at with
yeah,
potentially
so
seeing it.
so they've basically done it. Fannie Mae is coming out, right? And removed the minimum credit score requirement to qualify for a mortgage. Okay, sounds awesome in
Yeah, let
theory.
that sink in. Yeah.
Hmm. Um, I like it as a tool, quite honestly, right? Like, I mean, we have to, like, getting into like, if you can't, if there's a, again, I guess it goes back to situational, right? Because there's people that like are good financially, but they've been through a divorce or they've had something catastrophic come up that screwed up their
Health
credit,
issue
right? That hasn't
cost a
really, right?
lot. Yeah.
But for the average young first time home buyer that just can't manage your debt, don't pay your credit cards, you know what I mean? That
Don't buy a
stuff, like
house.
it's a bad situation, right? Like, yeah, I like that minimum credit score because it's like, okay, you have to prove some financial responsibility before you get into the biggest debt you're ever going to have in your life,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so I don't necessarily, but here's the caveat to that. So every lender has to run automated underwriting, desktop underwriter, or loan product LP loan. I know, there's another one. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac both have one. Loan product advisor.
Okay.
Okay, um, and they set the parameters for that automated underwriting. We click a button to see if what we've entered in. It looks at credit score, credit history, income, reserves, right? Just the overall picture. It evaluates it electronically and then kicks you back and approve or
Mm.
not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can remove that, and that's probably why they feel comfortable removing it,
Yeah.
because their system's still going to evaluate that as not a good credit risk.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like it throws it out. It's a lesser qualifying component because usually that historically that's been a hard stop. Like as soon as you hit that number, we're not evaluating this as a potential borrower
Yep.
anymore.
Yep.
So,
So
so I think
so it's
that's
good.
go ahead.
it's good in those situations where it's not the borrower's fault that their credit's so low, right?
Yeah.
Because now it could look at your credit history and say, oh, actually his score is low, but look, he's made all his payments and on time, and he just had this one thing, right? And
Yeah.
so I think if it evaluates it that way, it's a great tool. For the average home buyer, it's not going to be much use at all.
Yeah, I think again we're saying everything's kind of situational here, but for the person that doesn't know or think that they can buy a home because they had a recent issue, a divorce and some hiccups, a high ticket medical expense that they just couldn't keep current on and it dinged. If they think they can't buy, they need to be aware of this tool or this shift
Yeah,
in how they're looking at your financial well-being, because you potentially could buy where you're thinking I can't buy, and by the way, I'm thinking it's a year, 2, 3, 4 out, and that's so not the case. So could be super helpful.
yeah. Well, and it's yeah, in certain instances, right? Like it can definitely be helpful.
Yeah.
So I'll just leave it at that.
Right. Right. High ranked if it's helpful, and uh, I guess there's yeah. I don't know. I mean, people are just sneaking in now more than they used to, really, because they were
Yeah,
looking at the
well,
big picture anyway.
the funny thing is that it like depending on the status of the national economy and all that stuff, like it and nobody comes out and really says it, but one day I'll have a borrower approved at a low credit score and no reserves and all this, and the next I don't. Right, like so it's just, like it feels like they can adjust those parameters on those systems depending on how they feel,
Yeah.
in
Yep.
in the current environment.
Yeah, yeah, the current economic landscape. So let's talk about. So this one is kind of an interesting and logical segue into non-QM mortgage. Why don't you go ahead and give kind of a definition and the application or use case for that one?
Yeah, so it's the definition's simple. There's qualified mortgage and non-qualified mortgage. A qualified mortgage is one that's backed and insured by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, right? The basically the governing bodies of mortgage. Um, so if it doesn't fit their parameters, it's a non-qualified mortgage, non-QM, which means they can make up different guidelines. They can, and they still have guidelines, right? There's still investors that are willing or not willing to invest in that,
Hmm.
and so they still set parameters for those, but like a bank statement loan, or which qualifies you off the cash flow that runs through your bank, a DSCR loan for investors, which qualifies you off the income the property can make as opposed to your income, and you still have to have they still have minimum credit scores and things like that involved. So it's not like, hey, stated, like back in the early 2000s where, oh yeah, I can just tell you I'm making $1 million and get qualified. So it's not that, but I can't tell you how often. Right now, I have 6 non-qualified mortgages going for this month out of a total of 9 loans I'm doing this month.
I was going to ask you about the percentage shift in that direction. So is it fair to say these are non-cookie cutter loans?
Yeah.
Is that like the shortest description?
Hmm. Yep.
Right?
Yeah. It's just it's a differentiation in guidelines based on situation.
Yeah.
Like it, so if you look at a self-employed borrower, right? Like if you're self-employed and you own a business, there are there are ways that you can categorize your expenses so that it comes off your bottom line and it reduces your tax liability, right?
Mm-hmm.
All legal, right? The way you do that, it's all legal. I'm not saying it's illegal or, like that's the benefit of owning your own business are the write-offs.
Yeah.
If you write off too much, now you can't qualify for a mortgage because somehow they've tied mortgage to the IRS, right? And if
Yeah.
you're not showing you make money, then they don't want you to be able to buy a house, right? They want you to pay more taxes, so that it's
Right.
it's it's a that's my own little like tin hat wearing moment where I think that they've done that, right? So I don't know that
Yeah.
that's true or not, but
Yeah.
it feels like it. Come from self-employed family
Yeah.
and
We're
all,
we're
yeah,
both right in that
yeah.
category. So for folks that aren't cookie cutter, the ranking on this thing is going to be super high
I
because you're
I
you're
think
not
it's
going to get a loan.
I think it's super high from here on out. Like for me in my business, um, probably top three. Like even investors now, right? Investors can qualify more easily.
Mm-hmm.
Because investors have multiple businesses and ways to, because you have to relieve that liability of if you have a bunch of investment properties, right,
Mm-hmm.
with different LLCs and stuff like that. So it becomes difficult to show income. Uh, and so if you have the cash, you can qualify, right? On DSCR loans, I'm doing a ton of those right now.
Mm-hmm.
And basically allows you to buy an investment property based off the monthly rent of the property,
Mm-hmm.
not on your income.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as your FICO meets the minimum and you have a decent DSCR, debt service coverage ratio on the investment property, which is rent to expense, you qualify,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So I think they're great, and there's there when you get into non QM, non-citizen loans, foreign citizen loans, like all of that stuff, it just has become super, super important.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're the person, like I said, non cookie cutter, and you're like, man, it sure seems like I should be able to buy, but you're talking to lenders that it keeps turning you down, it could be because they don't have access to non QM or many non QM products. So, if you feel like, other than, hey, look, just be honest with yourself. If you got terrible income or terrible credit or both, like, yeah, most lenders are going to tell you now's not the time. But if you feel like, hey, there's just some things that seem like should work, but I'm not hearing that from other lenders, talk to Chase because he can put you, uh, uh, potentially identify some non QM products that might fit your needs.
Right.
So,
Yeah, yeah, and they've come up with a lot of them, and they're changing. They because they don't have to meet those guidelines. They're changing constantly to fit the mortgage environment, making it easier for people to own home and then own real estate, and then in turn build wealth.
nice, nice. Well, let's chat about gifts. So we're talking. Well, I'll let you describe that because, man, there's a lot of I don't know about catches, but nuances to that, right? What people can get.
Yeah, there can be. The easiest way is a gift. There's a couple different types. You talk about gift of equity, gift of cash. Um, if your family, if you have a family member that can gift, that's a huge tool for first time home buyers, right? If you're in that situation where and I used it, decades ago. Um, if you're in that situation where you can make the payment, you're doing it every month in your rent, but you're having a hard time putting away the money for cash to close,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because a gift can reduce or take away the need for down payment assistance and stuff that adds to your monthly payment,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So if you have that ability, a gift can be super, super useful. And
Yeah.
there's if you're buying from your parents or something, like they can gift you equity in the home, use the actual equity that's in the home for down payment. Like
Nice.
there's a bunch of different types, but actually can be super, super useful if you have that ability.
Yeah. But we do have to say, gift is not a loan because they're two different words.
Yeah, if they're loaning you the money for down payment, you can do that as well.
But it's
But
not a
now
gift,
that it's going to affect your qualifying in your debt to
right?
income, because you have to figure in that payment.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get it out of the way for the folks that say, my parents are gifting me, wink, wink, and I'm like, that's not that's
Nope,
not legal,
that's a
so
loan.
we're not doing that. It's
No,
called a loan.
no. Gifts versus loans, very, very different.
Yeah, yeah. So that could be ranked super high. Well, actually, let's go back through the ranking here and kind of wind things down. But on this last page here, um, I guess for the right buyer, I would say minimum credit score removal is high for the right
Yeah,
person.
for the right person. Trying to think of how much I would actually use that. Whew,
Yeah,
that's a
again, it's niche. Did you go into the hospital and incur $10,000 medical bill that you're behind on, so now your credit's ding, but everything else looks good, or you know
yeah.
you went through a
I'm
divorce, not too long ago, and things got caught up in limbo land. And anyway, so very niche, super helpful when used.
Yeah. I'm going through and I'm kind of looking
Yeah.
and trying to see where I'd put them overall, 1 to 10.
Oh, okay. That's gonna be
And
tough.
I think what was the one we had? Yeah, that's what I do. Credit card. Okay. And then and what else did we have? I'm missing at least one rate buy down, down payment assistance, 100% loan, oh, the 100%. And then okay,
Yeah.
I think I'm there. I don't know.
Wow.
I'm trying to figure out if this would stick. Like if this is really how I think. Where am I at? I'm missing. I'm trying to place the last two.
Okay.
Um, so
So do you have seller? You have seller concession,
I've got seller concessions. I got
100%
100%.
down payment assistance,
You got DPA.
rate buy down,
Got rate buy down.
price reduction,
Got price reduction.
50-year,
Got 50-year.
credit card interest reduction,
Got it.
minimum credit score removal,
Oh, that's the one.
the non-QM and gifts.
Okay, I think I've got it.
Well, I'm impressed because I don't know if I was doing that, if I could figure out in time, and maybe you just said today as it sits, this is the
That's what I
priority.
did.
And then
I'm
the
looking at
average buyer, is that how you did that?
yeah, and I am, part of it's emotional, right? Because I know who I
Uh,
want to help the most.
ah,
You know what I mean? And so those things. And so here's my,
yeah,
for
let's go
better
from
for
10
worse.
to 1.
Oh, 10 is my least used.
Yep, correct.
First of all, I put 50-year because it doesn't exist yet,
Okay,
and because also I think it's something I probably wouldn't use a ton.
okay.
Um, Minimum credit score was 9 because I think non-QM world has helped me a lot in that arena.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because I know how the system works, and I
Yep,
think it's going to, I think if you have a low credit score, the outcome's going to be the same.
gotcha. Okay,
Okay. And so that's the only reason that the 50 years higher is because it doesn't exist.
yep.
Then I went to 100%, which is really low on my list at number 8, 100% LTVs. So
Interesting.
USDA and VA.
'Cause it's still
Um,
niche for the right buyer.
it is, and I'll be honest with you, man. The conversations that I have a lot of with a lot of the veterans, like, what's your plan? Do you want to keep this as a rental? Do you want
Right,
to,
right.
like, it? I see us. We often do decide on other loan programs that help them to build equity faster.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
We're on 7.
uh, and 7 is I have, which is lower than I wanted it, but it's the credit card interest rate reduction
Okay.
because it isn't a direct mortgage tool, right? Like
Right,
I
right.
think it's number one nationwide. It's one of the things I want to see, but I
Yeah,
don't. It's right now. It's not a direct mortgage tool.
right, right.
Okay.
Unless you're focused on it and leveraging that year period to specifically
hmm
buy a home, it's kind of tough to rate higher.
Yeah, and my 5 and 6 are pretty interchangeable, to be honest
Mm-hmm.
with you.
Mm-hmm.
6 I have as gift, 5 I have as price reduction. And the only reason is I like the gift better because because to me that signifies that I'm helping first time homebuyers typically.
Yeah.
Um, but the price reduction I think will help a higher volume of people.
Makes sense. Yeah, more people can use a price reduction and benefit from it than the people that are going to actually have legitimate gifts available to
Right.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to help I can give a gift to my son, but my son's not going to be able to financially give a gift to me if I want to buy, right? Like, so that's the
Right.
scenario.
Right. Right.
Um, number, so gift price reduction. Number four, because it's dropped. I think it would have been top one or two. Our rate buy down would have probably been top one or two, a year ago,
Okay.
right? Or
Yep.
6 months ago, even. But where we are in the market right now, I think it's still very valuable if you have extra, because now you might be able to get into a long term rate.
Gotcha.
But the temporary buy downs aren't as necessary.
Gotcha. Yep. All right. Now we're on the podium. What do we have for number three?
Now, and I don't know, like my two and three, I might change because of my business. Oops. Uh, so my two and three, I have three as non QM, two as seller concessions. Um, right now, because of the depth of seller concessions and what it's
Yeah.
offering people, I'm going to leave that at
Yeah.
number two.
And it would shift down as seller concessions minimize or go away.
Yeah, yeah. If we have this available, it is just it can be a game changer for me.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right.
Non-QM is a huge part of my business, but number one for me, because we live in Idaho, because Idaho Housing Association is such a great partner, the DPA, I think it changes people's lives every day, and I just see it.
Yeah. Down payment assistance.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I
If
love
if
it.
I lived somewhere else, it wouldn't be my number one. I can promise you. But
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm impressed you were able to actually stick numbers to it, because as we were going through it, the numbers would just shift based upon every scenario and of a buyer, and then the timing in the market. And so, kudos to you for locking it down as good as you did.
yeah, after our last episode, I had to think about it. Okay, how are you approaching this, right? Like you can't, because you can't think, okay, so if it's situational, then what's the volume of people it's going to help, right? That's how you're going to have to rank it. So
Yeah. 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 Love it. All right. Well, we've covered a lot of ground for a lot of things. I'm wondering if there might be a part three here, because there were some ideas that popped into my mind as we were talking. Obviously, they'd be maybe even a little more niche, or but of interest to folks. So maybe we'll put together another five or so, and kind of go back at it. Other than that, we'll just continue to keep you abreast of what's going on with the real estate market, specifically in the market we're in, and just try to bring you value in the way of education, and how best to kind of lean into home buying and home selling. So
yes, big things to come for 2026. Our predictions we're starting as of this week are starting to come true. Like where interest rates are coming down.
yep.
December home price increases across the nation. So,
Y-
that could be the trend. So
Yeah, I
don't
think that's a
hesitate.
great way to kind of wrap up the episode, is the things that we've been talking about, because we're now the better part of 2 years into these podcasts. The things that we anticipated have been happening. They've been happening a little slower than we thought they would, but they are happening. So
Hmm.
if the indications are that it's going to continue to go in the direction we thought it would, meaning as a buyer, your leverage, your strength, your negotiating power might minimize over the course of this calendar year as our weather strengthens up, as rates drop down, as demand picks up, because inventory is not catching up quick enough. So to take us up on that no obligation, consultation, that conversation, to kind of see if now is the right time for you, using potentially some or a lot of these tools. It's going to be worth the conversation for sure.
Yeah, yeah. That's all we're telling you. Not
Yeah.
saying it's the right time. Not saying
Right.
it's the perfect time. Not saying everything's great,
Right.
but it's time to talk at
Y-
least.
Yeah. In a year from now, to have a conversation, you could be very frustrated, and we don't want that.
Yep.
All right, Chase. As always, man, good seeing you again, and we'll
So
wish everybody a blessed one. Take care.
take care.